welcome everybody to the BECU podcast. My name is Jay Chachi. I'm a student life associate, and today I'm joined by Roy Moreira. He is a third-year biomedical engineering student at ryEng, and I'm very happy to have him here. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey Jay, what's up? Nothing. I'm just having fun here. I'm glad you invited me on the podcast. I'd love to be here.
So, how's your summer been?
It's been pretty good. I just had a summer class that I needed to take, and then that went pretty well. It went by pretty fast, to be honest with you, but yeah, I've just been enjoying the warm weather over here, and yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear. I'm happy that you're safe and healthy. But speaking on summer courses, you're somebody who actually took a lot of you took advantage of the systems that are in place at ryEng.
That's right.
You actually did the transition program, right?
That's right.
So maybe you could comment on how that helped.
So, in first year, I took linear algebra like everyone did, and I hadn't seen a lot of that material ever in high school. So when the midterm came, it was really tough for me, and I thought I had a good grasp on it. And then when the questions came, they seemed a little tricky for me. I think I must have messed up a number from being nervous in there, and it just messed up the whole matrix. So I didn't even finish that midterm, and I did really poor on it. So I decided to drop it and take it second semester, but still go to all the classes so I could learn, right? So I took it second semester, but it pushed electrical circuit analysis into the summer. And if the transition program wasn't there, I would have had to push my whole program like an extra year, because ELE only runs in the winter semester. So I was really grateful for that. It really helped a lot. By then all the classes were online through Zoom, which is fine. It was good for me. The professor teaching you did a really good job. The lab's really helpful, actually. I think that was one of the things I liked the most, because although we didn't have a lot of the equipment, I guess this is just a personal thing, but for me, I had a lot of that equipment in my house already because my dad's an engineer, so I just used some of his stuff. Yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't mind it at all.
No, that's good to hear. And I know that what you did was you took liberals instead, right, during the actual semester, so you can actually get some more work done.
That's right. I took a few liberals. I don't know if this would be a good recommendation or not, but for me personally, I took a lot of music liberals because I've been taking music lessons since I was a little kid. So I think that liberals should probably be chosen mostly on A, what you're interested in, and B, what you can score high on, because the first couple semesters in engineering is pretty tough, and your GPA probably won't be where we're used to it being in high school. So you definitely want those liberals to boost you. So I would get up really early in that morning where you got to choose the courses, and for sure pick something you're very interested in or you can do well in.
That's good advice. I know that I was scrambling for liberals eventually, and I ended up finding stuff I like. But I know you mean. It's really good. It makes you feel better about your GPA.
It does. It really does. It brings it up a lot. Yeah.
So another really cool thing about you is technically, you're like an international student now.
Sort of, yeah, that's right.
Sort of. Yeah. So
you
moved to the States second year?
Yeah, actually, I moved right before the second semester of second year started.
So how does it feel being like international student technically? Do you feel like there's actually like a big change that you experienced, or is it?
Well, I haven't experienced it yet because everything's on Zoom, which I'm grateful for because I don't have to. Once it goes back onto in-person classes, I'm gonna have to come back to Ryerson, but I really enjoy it.
So that's the thing. You're there, and there's definitely the U.S. has like a lot of colleges and universities that you could have transferred into.
Right.
But then I noticed that you decided to stay at ryEng.
That's right.
So I just wanted to ask why. There is a lot. I'm not saying that we're a bad program, but I'm just saying there's a lot of opportunities you could have chased after in the States.
That's right. I really like Ryerson's program, mostly because of how not just the professors are, but the community with the students. I've noticed that at other universities, a lot of the students are competing against each other, and it's really cutthroat. They don't want to help each other at all. But at Ryerson, I noticed it's more of a community. All the students want to see each other, do really well in classes. Everyone helps each other out. So I really like that community that the students have. It almost feels like we're all like part of a really big family. We all want to help each other out. And I haven't met almost anyone that, is doing things for pretty much their own benefit. You know what I mean?
I don't think anybody's preying on anybody else's like downfall.
Exactly.
Like everybody's really pretty nice. Yeah.
That's right. And I know that's a big thing, especially at the more competitive universities here in Florida. Like I think it's UF, University of Florida, and FSU. Those have pretty cutthroat programs, and the kids are really, they're brutal.
I'm glad you get to be here. Oh, frig, I'm frozen. But I'll just keep going. So one of the main things I wanted to ask you actually was, why did you choose biomedical engineering? So you've chosen to stay in the program. You have a lot of really good things to say about the program, but why did you actually choose to come to Rye? Like, did it start in high school? Was it like a childhood like fascination in biology? Like, why did you choose biomedical engineering?
So, okay, actually, I've always been interested in engineering. I didn't think I was going to go into engineering, but I've always been interested in it because my dad, he's actually a robotics engineer. And, he's always, like, when I was younger, he'd bring me back, like, little stuff from the places he'd go. And I'd think, oh, wow, that's so cool. He works in mostly plastics and hydraulics. So he'd bring me, like, the plastic bottle preforms and everything. And I'd be like, wow, this turns into a plastic water bottle or whatever. So I've always been interested in engineering. I liked, learning about robots. I always took out those books from the libraries. I'd read them. But I was also very interested in medicine from a young age because of my uncles from my mom's side. They're all like dentists or doctors. I actually have one uncle that's a neurologist. That's what originally I wanted to go into.
So you were surrounded by like people in the industry. So you
right.
had like, a little bit of engineering, a little bit of biology,
exactly.
medical. That's pretty
originally, sick. I actually wanted to go into neurology, right? Because I was always fascinated by the brain. I always wanted to, know how it worked. Obviously when I was younger, I didn't have that much interest in anything. As other kids, you wanted to be like a race car driver if you saw like a race or something like that, or like a chef. So, I think I was watching a movie with my dad about a neurosurgeon, and I was like, wow, I want to be like that guy. So ever since then, I think I liked the medical aspect of working. So
it's really cool to hear. Like I like hearing the come up of people in the industry. Right?
Yeah.
It's like one day you're gonna be telling this story. Like I was surrounded by these people. It's like my calling.
That's right.
No, I'm hoping that your career goes really far. I'm happy. You seem very happy with what you're doing so far.
I am. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see it. So another thing I wanted to ask, like we're going kind of back to the international student thing, but you were one of the very lucky few that you got to experience your last years of high school in person.
That's
right. You
right.
also got to experience your first year in person, and then you went on to the online courses. So when that happens, you have a very distinct view of in-person delivery for labs and tutorials and lectures. You also have a very good grasp of the online delivery, because not only did you have it while you were here, but then you also had it while you're in the States right now. So of the two, the in-person and the online, which have you kind of preferred? Which method of delivery do you think is the one that's helped you succeed the most in the program so far?
Now, I may get a little bit of hate for this, but I for sure prefer the online delivery better. Now, of course, I'm glad that I had the first year in person, because everyone wants a university experience. They call it the college experience. You get to go, you see a whole bunch of new people that you didn't know before. That's one thing that you don't get with virtual classes as much. Is I don't really socialize with too many people from the university anymore. Obviously I can't now, but even when I was in Canada, you couldn't really socialize with them. And you could even hang out in breakout rooms and stuff like that, but that never really appealed to me, because I was like, what's the point? I'm one of those people that like to talk in person more so than texting or whatever. So I definitely will say that the in-person delivery has that over virtually. However, I did notice I care a lot more about my academics now that it's virtually, and I have a lot more not freedom or time to study, but I have more of a drive to study now, because
you're on your own, right?
Yeah, not only am I on my own, but realistically, there's not much else to do. So I mean, you could go outside and everything, but I see my books there, and I'm like, okay, well, I better start studying.
I might as well study.
Yeah, I might as well study if I'm not doing anything else. And, it helped. I think that helped me a lot. But one of the big things for me that I didn't like, in first year, you have a lot of 8 a.m.s, as you probably remember. And
like 6, 7, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Like literally the entire week.
The entire week,
6,
right.
7,
and I don't know if you guys remembered, but I was coming from Milton, which was like a 1-hour train ride.
Yeah, Mr. Commuter over
That's
there.
right. And I had to get up at 5:30 every morning just to catch the train because the nearest train left me like, I think it was like 10 minutes too late, so I would come in late to the lectures, and that's pretty embarrassing because you're like the only one coming in, so I didn't want that, so I would wake up at 5:30, but now, I can just get up like 10 minutes before class, get ready, brush my teeth, wash my face, and go into class and, just take notes. You can also record the lectures, which I find is very helpful for me, because if someone just gives me a wall of information, I probably won't understand it, and I'll have to like pause it, write a little bit, actually digest it, and then replay it, or I could go backwards. That I think is one of the things that helped me the most, being able to record and fast forward, rewind, or pause lectures.
Another thing I noticed, especially like right now while we're recording this, is that your time zone is actually basically the same.
Yeah, it's the same
as
thing.
what it is here, right? So you were able to just hop in at 8 a.m. and just feel like perfect comfort. You weren't tired. You weren't. There's like no difference.
That's
You're
right.
just chilling, yeah. That's pretty sick. I'm glad that you had that. Like everything lined up pretty well.
It did, yeah. Literally, it actually lined up like the time zone. That was a good one, yeah. That's right.
So you did say it was like a controversial opinion that online courses were like your preferred method. But one thing I do notice that even people who said that they do prefer online, did you prefer the labs in person? I know you said you have access to different like materials and equipment, but did you actually just prefer having lab mates and like?
Okay, I guess that depends in two different aspects. Like in terms of like the social aspect, of course, I preferred having labs in person because you made a lot of new friends because you were forced to make new friends because you could have classes with your friends and everything, but labs you most likely didn't have with people you knew. And I made a lot of new friends in my labs, people that I don't think I would have talked to, not because they were not friendly or anything like that. It's just that people that I wouldn't go up to randomly and be like, hey, what's up? And just strike a conversation with them. So I was kind of forced to make a lot of new friends, which I'm glad I did. But in terms of like academics, for sure, I prefer the labs virtually because I notice I focus a lot more, especially if I'm doing the labs alone or if I'm not really. Even if I have to split up the work with someone, I usually do it like right after the Zoom lab finishes, so I can get it out of the way as early as possible. Whereas when I was in person, I don't know, I had like some sort of. Like, there was no drive to do the lab right away. I just wanted to talk with my lab partner, just kind of hang out, and then I was like, oh, I'll worry about the lab when I get home. But, that doesn't really exist with virtual classes because you're already home.
Because you're already home.
So I was like, well, I might as well worry about it now.
I know what you mean, yeah. So that's lab mates. How about, like, TAs? I know personally, like, I felt like the TAs were a lot more responsive for the online semester, probably because they didn't even have to commute all the way downtown and, like, feel tired. And they all, I don't know if you felt this, but remember, like, first year when we had our TAs, it'd be like one TA would teach you one thing, and another, like one of your friends' TAs would teach you
a completely other thing,
yeah,
exactly.
But then when you do it online, it's like they all had, like, the same exact, like,
that's right.
To go off of.
Well, not just that, but I noticed because everything was online, you could have a lot more students with one TA. And the TAs also had different time slots. So, you could have the same TA, but they teach at different times or on different days. So I think that kind of got rid of that whole thing with the TAs teaching different things. But I don't know if you remember our like digital computation class, the one where we learned about like the CMOS stuff.
Yes, CMOS, PMOS,
right.
NMOS,
exactly. Do you remember our TA from that class? I actually really liked him. He was probably my favorite TA that I've had.
He's one of the TAs that actually went through the lab.
He went through the lab so detailed and he explained everything about it, but the only problem was that if you didn't understand it, because he did a really good job of explaining, so if you didn't understand it, that meant you weren't paying attention, but he would get kind of upset if you didn't understand. But then again...
He actually gave out the files for this.
That's right, he did.
He recorded it. Some TAs
he recorded it.
Record their lectures,
I really like that. I like when TAs record their labs, because, sometimes you can't always, like, make it to the lab because, a lot of people had to work. And I remember I had a friend who didn't really have, like, a set schedule for work, so they changed her hours every week. But she couldn't go to some of the labs, but since he recorded it, she could see the labs when she got home from work and everything, and that's just made everyone's life easier, I think.
No, I'm glad that they gave people the opportunity. Like, they were very accommodating.
They were, yeah.
Yeah. So, Mr. Roy, you dropped the information at the beginning, but I've known you for almost 2 years now, and I do know that you have a very, very, very passionate not even an interest. It's just you love music.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when you're in engineering, one of the big stereotypes is that you never have time. You're always going to be studying. You're always going to be practicing. You're at study halls. You're at tutorials. You and your friend group are going to like huddle up around each other and do math problems for like hours on end. But one thing I've noticed is that you've actually continued doing music. You've very verbally and like shown a lot of people that you continue to have a passion for music, and you actually do things that you love. So like, how do you find that balance? How do you strike that balance between hobbies and interests in school?
So I think that probably came from my dad, because, and I know in high school I actually had to quit piano lessons in high school because I wanted in senior year of high school, because I wanted to focus completely on my grades, because I knew biomedical engineering is kind of a tough program to get into. So I was like, no, I'm going to just focus on my grades, and I'm not going to, focus on anything else. And honestly, you need some sort of distraction, because if you just focus on, academics for, let's say 20 hours of the day or whatever, and you only sleep 4, you're going to get kind of burnt out, and you just need something to, relax your mind so that you go back into doing, whatever it was you're doing, like problems or, studying at the most efficient way possible. So I definitely think you need to it's not that you don't have time, it's that you're just not managing your time properly, which I have a problem with all the time. So I think what I learned to do was, kind of set timers and say, okay, I'm going to, finish, let's say, a 2-hour block of studying and doing problems. Obviously, it's not really set in stone. If, let's say, I'm in the middle of a problem, once that timer runs out, I'm not going to, just stop right there, right? You got to finish the last problem you were on. And then, you go take a break, you do something else, you get your mind off of what you were, doing, even because you might have been stuck on a problem. So you go do something else. I would go practice, guitar or piano or whatever. And then when I would come back, I'd look at the problem and I'd see, oh, I just missed a negative sign right there. But that's something that I was almost like blocked into not thinking of, because I was so stressed and focused on that one problem. But once you take a break, you come refreshed, right?
So one other thing is, usually people say that when you follow your interests, they're not going to get you anywhere. So they're like, oh, if you like music, music's cool and all, but engineering's the main thing. Or if you like playing baseball, baseball isn't the main thing. Go focus on getting good grades.
Right.
But one thing you do notice now in the job market, especially now that we're in third year and we're going to be applying for co-ops and stuff, is that we're going to have to show these skills. These are the things that make us stand out.
Right.
So do you feel like that's a good thing for you? Do you feel like you continuing your interests is actually going to be helpful moving forward for your co-op applications or job applications?
I think so, because, so the example you used for baseball. So what's something that, if you do baseball, you play the sport, you got to be pretty, dedicated to not only just fitness, but waking up at a certain time to go practice, right? Because I know practices for any sport are usually pretty early in the morning. So, that shows a dedication and a level of hard work. Same with piano. Piano is not just something you can just, sit down and just start playing really well. You really have to practice hard at that, especially when you're starting out, because it's something that's more almost involved, because you kind of have to split your body into both halves so that your left hand does something completely different than your right hand. So it's a way of almost training your brain to multitask pretty much, which I think multitasking is pretty big now, because, a lot of people are given a huge amount of workload to do in a limited time, and you got to make those deadlines. So I think multitasking is probably necessary in a lot of our job field, in any job field. So I think that's a pretty good skill you'd pick up. So all of these, activities and interests that you might have, they all have skills that you need to complete them, right? And I think those skills come in handy a lot in, other job fields.
No, that makes sense. That was a really good answer. That was very clear, and hopefully anybody listening to this will continue to like follow their passion
That's
and
right.
also
Yeah.
learn how to balance their time. So, with our time nearing its end, I have one last question for you, and it has nothing to do with engineering.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm going to ask you is, what is the most embarrassing like moment or story that you remember from like the last 16-ish years of your school, like schooling life?
So.
Doesn't have to be a school story, but just like while you were young.
Oh,
in,
okay.
like, the school
Well, I have one that comes to mind right away, and it was actually first year of engineering at Ryerson. I was walking to my 8 a.m. and obviously I told you I took the 5:30 train, so I would get there early. So I always had time to go get breakfast. So I went to that one Tim Hortons on Victoria.
Oh, next in front of the big building.
In front of the big building. Yeah, it's a nursing building, right?
I think it's the one with the substance abuse and like control center on one side,
Yeah,
and then the
that's the one.
building, and then, yeah.
So I went to the Tim Hortons there because I was like, oh, there was a special 2 for $5, like breakfast sandwiches for
The
$5.
breakfast sandwich. I remember everybody was getting those.
Yeah. So I went in there to go get like a couple of sandwiches. I was pretty hungry. And I go and I'm like, you know what? Today I'm going to sit down at this Tim Hortons because, it's kind of cold outside. I don't want to sit down in like the field where Kerr Hall was. And, I don't think the classroom wasn't open yet. And I didn't want to eat in the hallway. So I was like, I'm just going to sit down here in Tim Hortons. So I get my meal and I sit down. And I guess one of the people, the homeless people that were walking around, goes in and tries to pay with a stolen Visa card, right? Tries to pay for his coffee or whatever, and they decline him. And he was really upset. He left the store and he came back. And of course, when he comes back, I'm sitting right by the door, and he was already upset. And he looked at me and he's like, "Hey, you know that backpack? That's my backpack." And I was like, "Oh, but I didn't even take off my backpack when I got here." And then he like looks at me all funny, and he told me like I look like a girl, and I was like, oh, okay. And then the last straw was he spat like near my leg, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is really weird. And I got super embarrassed, so I just packed up all my stuff and I ran so fast into Kerr Hall. I kept looking back, so I was like, I really hope this guy's not following me, because I mean, that's kind of what happens with our campus. It's embedded into the city, which I really liked because you get to see all on TV like the campuses, like big old buildings and whatever, but ours is like right in like the heart of downtown Toronto, which has upsides, of course, because you get to see the whole city, but obviously there's going to be encounters like that. But I just remember being super embarrassed and running with all my stuff inside, and I think I told our friend Safwan right after, because I had that class with him, and he started laughing at me because he was used to, you guys must be used to encountering all these kind of things because you guys live pretty much in the city, whereas me, I come from the suburbs, so I've never actually had to encounter something like that. So that was kind of like my welcome to the city moment for me.
No, yeah, a lot of the people experiencing homelessness in that area are very there's like the man who opens his door, people usually give him like food or
that's
money,
right,
like,
yeah.
He's really nice. There's some that actually like help you if you need directions.
Yeah, they help you out.
But then there are the occasional
of course,
kind of people who are not in the best state of mind, just like causing a little ruckus.
I think he was mostly just upset because he couldn't get his order.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was really cold, so I'm sure he just wanted a coffee and to warm up.
But at least that was a nice fond memory, I'm assuming.
For sure. I think that, now I'm not so scared whenever I encounter that kind of stuff. But for sure, I was really scared because I think that was maybe first or second month. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that was nice. Not really. That was actually not that nice, but... No, but I think you know what I mean. It was a nice story. I can see why it is embarrassing because you were being berated by a man who couldn't get his coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you got away with that and got away from that encounter. That was a good laugh looking back on it.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm very glad that I got to speak to you today. So thank you for your time, Roy.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I hope all the biomedical engineering students or anybody else watching this has enjoyed Roy's commentary on his experience as a third year and the very unique experience he's had as a international student, somebody who took a good advantage of the transition program.
That's right.
And somebody who knows how to manage his time between his hobbies and his passion for engineering, and as well as how he got into this entire industry in general. So thank you, Roy, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for your time. And I'll be signing out. Thank you.
Cheers.